各位老师午安，大家好，我是双语教育中心教师组组长邱正豪，非常谢谢各位老师今天来参加我们这个学期第一次的这个 EMI 的午餐分享会。那事实上我刚刚 debate 非常久，到刚刚1分钟前我都还 debate， 我今天开场到底是要用中文还是用英文？一来那个双语教育中心这件事情啊，就是说大家一直可能会有期待，英文可能是一个最主要的主轴。那二来呢，我们今天的吴老师的分享也是要用英文。但如果老师不介意的话，那我已经开始用中文了，我还是用中文，可能跟大家比较亲近一点。那我想说，借这个机会跟大家认识，跟大家交流。那双语教育中心呢，有些老师可能是第一次参加我们这个活动。双语教育中心呢是去年9月的时候，因为我们学校拿到教育部的双语标杆计划而成立这个中心。最主要的目的就是在学校推动双语教育，特别是英语教育的这一块。那中心我们当然有很多的组织啊，那各位老师你们看在外面其实有发放这样的一个 brochure， 那里面是有关于我们这个组织的一些介绍，以及大的一些业务的一些概念，老师们可以参考一下。那我负责的部分呢，就是我跟两位同仁负责的部分是教师组业务，所以也就是跟各位老师息息相关的，不管是老师在增能上面的需求，在开课的一些补助，在 EMI TA 一些培训，都会跟我们组里面是非常有相关的。那其中一个活动，我们就是每个月会固定举办，就是这个午餐分享会。那很不好意思的是，我们现在叫它午餐分享会，但是这些教室是未来教室，所以是学校是禁止饮食的，所以请各位老师多多包涵。我们外面有准备餐盒，可以会后的时候老师带走来享用。但只是说在里面非常不好意思，我们未来会找更适合的场地进行这个午餐交流。那午餐交流的其中一个比较重要的精神，就是说我们希望是大家坐在一起是比较 casual 的一个gathering casual 的一个 setting， 那我们可以彼此分享，彼此了解，也许是认识新朋友，也只是吐苦水，都可以。我们是希望有透过这样的一个，然后渐渐建立学校的一个所谓 EMI 的一个 community。那今天我非常高兴邀请到我们学校脑心所的吴恩赐老师。那吴老师呢，吴老师他是新加坡人，所以今天他的讲题就会告诉我们，就是说，他以一个新加坡人的一个面向来看EMI 在台大，在一个中文为主的一个授课环境推动的挑战，或是推动的一些议题。那 without further ado， 我们一起欢迎吴老师。
有吗？有了哈 ，OK， 谢谢 ，Thank you， 我 code switch 一下 ，I use English， 因为是 EMI 嘛，OK， so thank you for this opportunity to share my experiences here. I'm Singaporean, and my wife is Taiwanese, and I've been here since 2012. So that's almost 10 years already. So 9 years, okay? But before that, I've been in Taiwan many times, actually. So, Singapore and Taiwan are very close. It's a 4-hour flight. So a lot of Singaporeans like to come to Taiwan to play and have fun. And even now, my friends, before COVID, they would always come and visit, and then we will always go to a lot of beautiful places in Taiwan. So the thing is, Taiwan has one thing that Singapore doesn't have. Both are islands, and both are majority are Chinese population. But the one thing that Taiwan has that Singapore doesn't have that makes all the difference is you have land. You can farm and you can go to forests and mountains and all that. The Singapore has the world's largest waterfall that's man-made. So that's what we can boast. And our highest mountain, we say Bukit Timah Hill, right, is only 200 meters high. That's like when we hike out and we feel like we are sweating, it's 200 meters only. So, that's not a very natural place, a lot of man-made. Of course, it has its own other aspects, but really Taiwan is so beautiful because of the nature that you have, the land that you have. So, it's really been a great 10 years, almost 10 years of being here. So I'm going to share my perspective being in Singapore. Singapore we were educated as English as the main language, and then we have our second language. So our second language is because I'm Chinese, ethnicity, in terms of ethnicity, our second language is Chinese. But that's not necessarily, that's not a rule. I can always choose to do Malay or other languages as my second language. But it just happens that it's easier this way, right? Because we speak Chinese at home as well. So I'll talk more about that later, but let me introduce just, by way of sharing, obviously I should give you some background about what I do here, then everything else might make more sense or might be more interesting. So my lab is in the college, the medical college, which is the campus closer to the Taipei main station. And our lab, we do human brain imaging. So we put people in the MRI machine. This is the MRI machine. I don't know, have people seen that or been in an MRI machine? Maybe, yeah, quite a few. Great. So it's so exciting, right? Such a comfortable experience. Not really. It's a very tight space, and then when you lie down, it's very noisy and cold. And we try to make people very comfortable so they can do stuff like this kind of gambling task while they're inside. We ask them questions. And while they do that, we can scan their brain and see like, oh, well, you do this kind of gambling decisions. Like you want to gamble $1,000, if I tell you like 78% chance you will lose the money, would you take this decision or not, right? As you think about that, certain parts of your brain are more active or less active. We can use the MRI to see that and then kind of like interpret, how your brain works and what's, is it working properly? And then what can we do to enhance it, all right? And so one of the things we do, apart from the other things that we do apart from the brain imaging is we also collect a lot of behavioral data about your health, your background. We also collect blood, and then we try to do some genotyping, things like that. The idea is because our lab, we actually care a lot about older adults. We are trying to see, because of Alzheimer's disease is a big problem in human society now. We are living too long, or we are living much longer than naturally if we didn't have advances in technology. And that leads to different sets of problems for the human species. And so we are very concerned about aging, and aging in the brain in particular. So all those things that we are doing is hopefully we can address, find some ways to enhance aging. And so some of the things we do in our lab towards that end, apart from those data, are like things like we put people in the MRI and then we ask them to navigate a maze. Because Alzheimer's disease patients, they get lost very often. So we try to figure out like why the brain has such a big problem with navigation when we age. And then also we ask older adults to play with Lego robots. That's one intervention that we are doing now in collaboration with the Science and Technology Center, the 科教馆 at 士林, right? Yeah. So we are doing a program there to kind of get older adults to engage in the community, to try to program the robot. So these are like 60-year-old, 70-year-old, 80-year-old. They've never touched code programming before, and we are teaching them to program the Lego robot. The Lego robot, the child can do it, okay? Because the interface is very graphical, and the idea here is that we have our theory behind the kind of engagement that will help the brain to kind of hopefully buffer against the aging effects. Okay, so that's one of the things that we're trying to do. I think maybe this is the most important slide for me. If you have older folks at home who think might be interested in being scanned or doing all this or going to, please scan this line code, or you can, this is our email, you can, and our phone number, and we are always recruiting interested participants because we are doing a prospective longitudinal study. Means when older adults or anyone, it's a lifespan, doesn't have to be older adult, can be middle age or even a young adult. Anyone who is interested and they want to track me every year, how my brain is changing, how my body is changing. That's one of the things that we are trying to build up in Taiwan as well. Okay, so that's a bit too much about my lab, what we do, but then this is the lab, obviously a lot of excited young folks, and yeah, I'm really grateful for them, a great bunch doing this very amazing work. Okay, so now, so where I come from, I think everyone has heard of Singapore. Singapore has a population, it's an island, just like Taiwan, like I said. And I think the size probably will be about Taipei city, right? It's smaller than Xinbeishi, if you include Xinbeishi. No, just Taipei city, that's the size of the entire Singapore, the country, okay? And the population will be, I think last I checked, probably about 5 million plus minus, okay? They said that, the government said they want to increase the population to 8 million, 9 million. And I'm like, please don't. You can't squeeze 8 million, 9 million people in a space that is like Taipei city. And then if you go to Singapore, you'll see we don't have land, like I said. So we don't build sideways, we build up and down. Our city is like all 20, 30-story residential area. There is no such thing as 那种公务 like that 公宅就是 like 5 floors. No Singapore development is going to let you build only a 5-floor unit, right? You'll be taxed like crazy, right? And then the shopping centers and everything are all underground. So you go to Singapore, you don't see people on the street. It's because everyone is in the aircon inside, okay? I always tell my friends who have never been to Singapore, if you go to Singapore, we choose not to see the sun. Here is like, I hope the sun comes out tomorrow, but in Singapore it's very hot. It's 30 degrees average all year round. There's no spring, summer, winter, nothing, right? And so people just want to avoid the sun. And we just can literally spend all day in a shopping center wandering from one place to the next. So that's the country physically. And because this is about language, so, and I know Zhen Hao is from linguistics department, this will be very interesting to you guys. So one of our most famous phrases is this word, la. Okay? We say, let me use it, okay? We say things like, it's okay la, all right? It's Singlish, okay? And we can say, it's okay le, or we can say, it's okay man. It's okay man, right? Or we can say, it's okay ma, like that. Okay, and these all mean completely different things. They don't mean that it's okay. They either say it's okay, or they mean, so it's okay la means it's okay. All right, or you can say it's okay le means I think it's okay, but not really. And it's okay ma is it's not okay. It's okay ma means it's so okay you shouldn't even be asking me about it. And just with this, we have expressed so many different concepts. And this is just a limit. There's some more, okay? Then we also say things like that also can. Okay? Does it make sense if you think 你用中文想这样也可以啊 right? That's exactly what we are saying. Like that also can. Just it's like, if you think about the Chinese, it makes sense, right? 你说这样也可以啊这样子 It's like kind of like you are shocked or you are, kind of don't believe it, that kind of thing. That's why I say like that also can, But we have something a bit more than that. Say like that also can, it's more like don't do that. 这样也可以啊，就是不要做这个意思 that kind of thing. And then the word can, it kind of run out, but we say things like can means 可以 or can 可以吗 or can means 真的可以吗这样子 okay? And then we say it, and by the way, when I say this, we don't say it in Chinese. 我们不是说可以吗？我们也不是说这样也可以啊。We actually say it in English. We say it like that also can, right? So this is Singlish. This is 标准 Singlish. Okay. And Singaporean English, Singlish. Yes. We are neighbors with Malaysia, so Malaysia will say Manglish. Yeah, Malaysian English. But it actually sounds, it's quite similar actually. And then we will say like, not say I say what lah. it means 不是我要说什么，不是我要这样子说，它就是这样子 ，OK？ Not say I say what lah, but then if you do this it will the people won't be happy, that kind of thing, right? Do you know what that means? You can kind of get what I'm trying to say? No, I try to say 不是我要这样子说他，可是他如果这样子做，大家一定不会开心的，这样子。It kind of gossip, kind of like, that kind of 态度, Okay. This is English, good lesson, So if you go to Singapore and you speak like that, people will feel 很亲切. They'll feel like, wow, you are just like one of us. Okay, so maybe you can see on those screens there, but the words are a bit small. Here is another classic Singapore thing that we do all the time. Is how to order coffee. Okay, I'll give you the code. This one, I don't know if you can take it back, but there's websites on this, okay? If you go to Singapore and you want your coffee, this is how you order. Kopi means black coffee with condensed milk and sugar. Kopi O means black coffee and sugar, so no condensed milk, okay? Kopi O kosong means black coffee, no sugar, no condensed milk. Kopi C means black coffee with evaporated milk. Evaporated milk is like milk, but it's not sweet, okay? And sugar, okay? Kopi Gao means thick black coffee, so like espresso extra short, okay? Condensed milk and sugar. Kopi Xiu Dai means black coffee, less condensed milk, but also with sugar. Kopi Ga Dai means black coffee, extra condensed milk with sugar. Kopi Po means less black coffee, more water, in other words, condensed milk and sugar. Kopi Peng, iced coffee, iced black coffee with condensed milk with sugar. Kopi Guyo, Guyo is butter, right? Gu, niu, okay? Guyo, niu. Kopi Tarik is pulled coffee. This is a physical thing, meaning when they make the coffee, they will kind of they have 2 cups and they pour it. Have you seen the Indian style? I think in 夜市 you see that, right? 拉茶是吗? Yeah. So they pour it. The effect of that is it makes it more frothy and lighter and maybe tastes better. Okay. I put this in because kopi is what language? I don't know. Hokkien, 福建吧 Kopi, Gapi. We changed a bit, but Kopi. Kosong is what language? Malay. Kosong is 0 in Malay. Tarik is what language? It's Malay. It's pool. Yeah. Xiu Dai is what language? Cantonese. Okay. So you see, this is the problem in our country. Okay, now I give you a test item. Teh si kosong, what do you think that is? Teh is cha. Yeah. So what is si? Si, you can figure it out. If evaporated milk and then kosong. No sugar. Means just the tea with evaporated milk without any sugar. Teh si kosong. Okay, all right. I also put this up because this is very interesting. If you order bubble tea here in Taiwan, right? 你就说 I want 什么绿茶珍珠少冰去糖微糖什么的这样子 right? You would say exactly what you need. We don't say that. We have one word to represent the entire concept. Okay? Right? Because 这个就是什么微糖少糖什么什么去冰加冰什么 all that, right? But we just say that it is just kopi peng. Why do you have to say 什么加冰少糖什么这样子 right? We don't do that. Very inefficient. For Singaporean, we are always in a rush. They say Singapore has the fastest walking speed in the world. Yeah, I don't know if that's true, but it's a 传说. And we have interesting things like Milo dinosaur. Milo, do you know what is Milo? It's the chocolate kind of Milo. And we call it Milo dinosaur. What it is the Milo plus more Milo powder on top. Okay? And then we have Milo Godzilla, which is Milo dinosaur plus vanilla cream on top. Okay? So these are all the codes. Again, this is very useful. If you go to Singapore, you go and say, I want to drink Milo Godzilla. They will know what you want. Exactly that. Okay? All right. So this is where I come from. Okay, a bit more. Very interesting stuff. We have signs like this. No smoking, everyone understands this. No eating and drinking in the MRT. No flammable goods. This one. No durians. I don't know, I think this is the only place in the world with such a sign. This is because the durian, if you have eaten it before, is very smelly for some people. Okay? I personally find it very fragrant. Okay? I think it divides countries into half. Durians. Who likes it? Who doesn't like it? 有点像臭豆腐吧, probably. So, and the thing is that it is smelly. I mean, you have to admit the smell is very strong. So there were many people who buy the durian and then they try to take the MRT. And the rest of the MRT will stink up. It's so powerful. So they made a rule that basically there's no durians allowed on MRT. And if you are seen carrying durian on the street, the taxi driver, you want taxi to go home, the taxi won't stop for you. And then there was this episode where the passenger bought durian, some Australian, bought durian, got onto the airplane, and the airplane could not fly. They had to deboard everyone. And then find out where is the smell coming from, and then take it, because it was kind of like in the cargo or something like that. Yeah, it was a big episode. And this is getting closer to where we are trying to say something about different languages, multiple languages, or bilingualism. In Singapore, we have 4 official languages. We have English, Chinese, Malay, and I think that's Tamil. Okay, it's because we are a multi-ethnic country. The predominant race or ethnicity is Chinese, but originally we are a Malay country. We're part of Malaysia originally. And in fact, our national song and our national song is a Malay song. So from kindergarten to secondary school, just like about 16 years old, every morning, we go to school, we have to sing the national anthem. I had no idea what I was singing. I just know, Mari kita raya Singapura. Oh, Singapore, okay. That's all I know. Yeah, but I know the words, but we don't know the meaning. And then teacher will tell us about the meaning, and then we'll forget the next day. So unless you're Malay, and then you'll know it has more meaning to you. But that's our sign. All our signs in Singapore have this 4 languages. So our signs always have to squeeze a lot of information in there. When I came to Taiwan, Taipei, the first thing I noticed is your signs are all in Chinese. And then you have English, but the English font size is very small. So I can't see it. I always look at the Chinese word, and there's another problem with that. Later I'll share with you. But I'll look at it and I can't, I have to take some time. But my wife will be like, oh, obviously that's the place, right? So can't you see? No, I can't see. It's very small font size. But in Singapore, our font sizes are the same. Because people will complain if you have some bias. And this is the textbook we grew up with, English. So we grew up learning our maths, our science, and everything primarily in English. That's my generation, though. Okay, and maybe the generation before me, a few generations before me. And then this brings back memories, really. This is our primary 1 English textbook, right? This is Nimi. This alien's name is Nimi, right? And Nimi teaches us how to speak English, even though it's an alien. Okay. So in Singapore, we are very confused. And this is one of my confusion. We used to be a British colony, so we adhere to Queen's English. Of all the Englishes in the world, Queen's English is the correct one. And in Queen's English, you all know this is chicken rice, okay? Chicken rice, all right? Then recently, pop culture came in and you get more American English. I say this, our newscasters speak Queen's English. Our radio broadcasters speak American English. It's changed now. Now our newscasters are speaking more American English. It's weird, huh? Those linguistics department, politics and English and language are bound together. In American English, they'll say chicken rice. Okay, chicken rice. Got a little bit of a slang there. In Singlish, we say chicken rice. Okay, Malay will say ayam goreng. Ayam goreng. Hindi and Tamil, what do they say? Do you know what the Indians speak when they want to order chicken rice? Kueh peng. The Indians in Singapore and the Malays in Singapore actually will not order chicken rice saying ayam goreng or chicken rice. They'll just say kueh peng jipuan, which is 鸡饭一盘, 这样子. So it's very confused because even the Malay and the Chinese and all that, we all speak each other because we have to order the food if we want to eat it. And the Laoban speaks Hokkien. So you cannot say chicken rice. You have to say kueh peng, right? So the kids, they grow up and they say, oh, that's kueh peng, ah. You know, it's a very natural thing. In Cantonese, we say gai fan, Hokkien kueh peng. And here is one problem that if you notice. In Mandarin, we say 鸡饭. Well, we can order 一盘鸡饭, no problem. But you see our 鸡饭 is 简体. Oh, so this is another one of my confusion coming here. Is when I see you all write, Taiwanese write 鸡, why is 鸡 written like that? I have no idea because 鸡 to me is a bird with just a leg sticking out, right? A little bit. But the 鸡 in Taiwan is, where is the bird? I can't see it. So, but 鸭有啊, 鸭是一个, you know, with a bit thing. So, oh man, it's really, really. And then also, the other thing is, Taiwan use 注音符号. And then even when you change it to the English, you know, the Romanized version, it's sometimes very weird to me also. But this is the 汉语拼音 of 鸡饭. And it looks like this. So sometimes I cannot recognize also even the 注音 or you switch it to the Romanized form. It's very confusing to me. Okay, so this is how I learned. This is the language environment in Singapore. Okay, so therefore when I come to Taiwan, this is my biggest headache. 科技部专题研究计划申请书 I can't recognize probably 1/3 of it from if I were, now I can, I've been living here for 10 years.我也有计划, so but I had a hard time, to switch. And maybe it would be easier if I didn't learn Chinese in Singapore, that I can start fresh. But because I did, I have a lot of interference. Yeah. And then also the other headache is 这个是民国. What is 民国? When I came as 什么是民国 and why is it 101 when I came as 101? Is that the tower? That's something to do with the 101 tower or something, you know? And then, oh, no, I learned the history and then I realized, oh, so significant. Yeah, but this also confused me for a long time. And then it will be okay if that's all they want, but they ask us to do English and Chinese translation all the time. Like, I can't just do a Chinese one and then that's done. Or I can't just do an English one and then that's done. I have to do an English one, then I have to do a Chinese one as well. Otherwise, the system cannot let me click send. So I have to do both. So this is part of my confusion and part of my difficulty coming here. This one, another one. Which one is this? Yes, 25th of December. I'm teaching. Cognitive Science, GIBMS 004. Because in Singapore it's a holiday. No one, and all my friends when I call home, they are celebrating and having parties. But I say I'm teaching. So that was very, very, very difficult to adjust. Now I feel it's okay. But yeah, first few years was very difficult. Ooh. Yeah, so Christmas was not a holiday. And another thing that was confusing was that, which one is this? Yes, this one. This is Saturday, but it is a replacement of the Chinese New Year holiday later on. And then so Saturday becomes Friday or Monday or something. I was like, why can't we just have a holiday and just skip the class? Right? It's okay, don't have to work so hard. No, I mean it makes sense. I mean in the grand scheme of things. But in Singapore we don't do that. In Singapore is like if you have Saturday is a Saturday. You do not replace it. And then if that is a holiday, well, that's a holiday, and then you just have to do it yourself. You don't have to make everyone replace one day with another day. So that took some getting used to as well. Okay, so I think this is really the sharing bit, which is just to tell you that that's the nature of my background. And when I came to Taiwan, so in Singapore we have such a varied environment, but we grew up learning English. Okay, and so in a sense, it's natural for us to use English and to teach English in school, right? But here, obviously, is different, and I can, we can share more about that later. But I probably want to share a little bit about how Singapore became like that, and some of the experiences, maybe as this program wants to do bilingual environment in Taiwan. In Singapore, the original, my grandparents' generation, they didn't speak English. Their language was Hokkien and Cantonese, their dialects, okay? And they didn't learn English in school, so they can't speak English. My grandparents could not speak English. So I had to talk to my grandparents in Hokkien or Chinese or Cantonese. And that's probably true of a lot of people in my generation. Then my parents, they started, the significant thing that happened was Lee Kuan Yew, the first Prime Minister of Singapore. He made the Ministry of Education start the bilingual program. So he forced, kind of like now, teachers saying that you must teach English in school because if you don't, these people will grow up not being able to communicate with the rest of the world. And he also emphasized not just that you switch to English, you still have to preserve your second language. So I had to also learn Chinese as my second language. And I have to tell you that actually my Chinese is very, very bad. I am a C6 student. D is fail. Okay? Yeah. So my wife trained me a lot. And in Singapore, if you want to go to the National University of Singapore, if you want to go into university, your Chinese has to be B4 and above. Otherwise, you go to Chinese camp or you can't go to university. So they enforced that for my generation to sort of force us to become bilingual. So my parents' generation before me, that's the Lee Kuan Yew generation. They started to learn English in school. But their English is very, very Singlish. So we code switch a lot. Like I can speak to you very formally. I can use American accent if I want to, because I watch a lot of Hollywood movies. Or I can do Queen's English because I've heard a lot of people talking to the Queen and all that kind of thing, right? So because we watch so much TV, so we're okay with that. But they didn't have that, so their environment is very local English and it's very Singlish. So we swap between dialects, Chinese and English a lot. My children now, they are growing up in Taiwan, but they are bilingual because I speak to them in English. So you see, what I'm trying to say here is this bilingual thing takes probably 4 generations, 2 generations, at least 1 generation to evolve. It's not going to happen now. It's going to happen maybe next generation. And it will be natural to them. It's unnatural to the people who are in that generation, but the next generation will be natural. That's the kind of probably the insight we have in Singapore. But it wouldn't happen if the government didn't, do some kind of like a rigid rule, right? If we make it flexible, then it wouldn't happen, I think. People will be lazy and say, oh, I don't need it, right? So, like, if I want to go into NTU TAIDA, but my English is D4, I fail, I can still get in, then it will never happen, right? I mean, I don't know, this is a policy thing. But we had to get B4 for our Chinese for us to go into university. And that's how we have the bilingualism. So one of the challenges I face here now in teaching students is, I think many of us probably face similar things, is some students have difficulty understanding English. So, obviously this is always something that we should discuss how to get around it. And then many students have even more problems speaking English, right? So, but I think speaking English helps you understand English. But unfortunately, there's not much opportunity for them to speak English here. So I can say this because my children, I can see that in school they speak Chinese, so they can't speak English as well as they can speak Chinese. But when they go to Singapore and then they come back, immediately they can speak English, no problem. So that really is about the environment. And maybe the most important thing as a 研究所, graduate research institute, people have to write thesis and they have to publish, is my students can't write English. And I have to write a lot of their works for them. It's very tiring. Some can. Taita students, NTU students are really actually very good. But I think if you want to compare with native English, obviously there's still a ways to go. So this is really a challenge for the students. And I would say, my perspective is, I was telling Chen Hao, is that it is a challenge, but I think they have to go through it, And if not, it's not going to happen, right? So they have to get through some difficulty. But on the other side, I think my colleagues, especially my colleagues in the College of Medicine, most of them are doctors. They have a challenge because although they are doctors, they are very smart, they are very capable, and some of the more senior doctors are kind of like my parents. They don't speak English as well, right? So when you ask them to teach in English, they give us a lot of problems. They say, my slides are all in Chinese. I have 100 slides. I am a doctor. I see clinic patients every day. I can't have time to translate my work to English. So don't disturb me with this request. That's usually the response we get. And we understand that. So this is a challenge too for colleagues. For the younger colleagues, like maybe our generation, which we are already bilingual, obviously not so much of a problem. But that's one of the things that I think might be different in College of Medicine. I understand maybe our main campus, humanities, 人文院, 文学院, and maybe other colleges, maybe it's not the same. But at least in medical college, that's one of the things that we have, one of the challenges we have. So yeah, that's it. 1 p.m. So thank you for listening. Terima kasih, Malay for thank you. Nanri is Hindi. Koi sai is Cantonese. 感謝. 谢谢. Okay. All right. Thank you. Do we discuss or something or question?
Thank you so much for that really engaging talk. I loved it. Now I feel ready to go order coffee, whatever the quarantine stuff. My question is, you talk about your lab training the elderly patients to program. Do you see that as learning a language in a different way than learning a foreign language?
Wow. So that's, if I could skip to that slide. Yeah, this one, right? So actually our theory is that programming, obviously it is a language. The code itself is a language. And at some level, we do think that it is like teaching them to learn a new language because you have to learn the syntax of the code and you have to learn the meaning of the items that you are using and how they go together, right? So essentially that is a language because it is syntax and semantics together. But I think we go beyond that in a sense that that's about learning the tool, what the tool means and the format of it. But what we hope to push people, or at least the older adults, to engage is the conceptualization behind it, which is the loop of the programming. Like you get the robot, because you've used this a sentence, right? The robot listened to you and did something. But maybe the robot did something that wasn't what you wanted. That was an error. And so the subject or the participant is supposed to see that and say, oh, I should change my code. I should change what I said. So this is what we are hoping to get them to do, to push this kind of inference, this kind of dynamic thinking. But then they have to use the language. They have to learn that language in order to do that. So we think just like the students here who they can't speak, they can't write so well, it's because they haven't had the environment to apply it. Yeah, and one of the best ways to learn something is to apply it, right? The embedding, the encoding is much more concrete. And that's why we're getting the older adults to do it, because you can tell them that, theoretically, like if we do this, the robot's going to do something wrong, and then you need to change it. I tell you in an instruction, and then you can say, yeah, I understand what you mean. That's different from you actually doing it, it actually making an error, and you actually, fixing it. So similarly, theoretically, you can teach the students English, theoretically, but that's not going to be the same as if they themselves are embedded in an English environment and then learning new ways of recoding the language, right? So yeah. Yeah.
What is the skill for to use English to attract students enjoy your talk?
Jokes. Being funny. I'm serious. I think if I were to use English just to read, the textbook or to convey something that is already very dry and difficult, the students already don't understand your language, and this is already very technical. So I would prefer to use Chinese to learn it, right? But if I use English more funny, in a funny way, then I think it kind of makes them, at least they pay more attention. And then they find that it's not so painful. At least for me personally, I feel, so like I said, in Singapore, we grew up, and a lot of my learning different accents, like American English or Queen's English or different slangs or whatever, was from watching TV, and especially a lot of situation comedy, sitcoms. So like Friends, or a lot of this. And so, and because it's not like I traveled to America when I was young and lived there, right? But more like those material, those media came to our country, and we just watch it and we pick it up. And we are fortunate because we were in an environment that I could use it, I could talk. And so that kind of closed the loop, like I could do it. So here I would say I can use funny, try to engage the students more with the English, but maybe they still need to find some ways to express it, to act it out. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that's really a very difficult problem.
Not so easy.
Yeah, not so easy.
Master, do you think gap year might give another chance for our freshmen? They can face a new environment and challenge.
So give them an opportunity to gain exposure somewhere else, that kind of thing. I think so, but I don't know. Would that be delaying? Would that delay sort of affect their progress? I'm not sure. I think maybe for now it might be needed, right? Especially since the environment is not yet there. So at least for a batch or so, we encourage this. I'm thinking, Then when they can go out or they can explore and they can come back. And once you have that base of people who do use the language or who think that way, then the rest don't need to. Maybe something like that. I did actually in NUS in Singapore National University, I did have exchange program to Texas University of Austin. And so I picked up some Texas drawl to say something like, y'all, how y'all doing? Something like that. So certainly things like that it comes from you going there and then just embed it, and then you come back and naturally you are spreading it like a virus. Yeah. So yeah, I think maybe for now it might be something useful. I don't know administratively, how practical or feasible it is to have everyone do it though. Yeah, that's something again would be difficult. Yeah.
Can I have one question? I really appreciate the Singaporean experience we just learned from you.
Oh, yes.
Given this multilingual environment in Singapore.
Yeah.
And my question is, now if we want to do some localized EMI here at Taida, what would be our strengths? You know, coming from Singapore, what do we have over here? I mean, we probably know what our weaknesses are, but what are our strengths if we want to do some EMI, but it's localized for our faculty members as well as for our students?
I don't know if people have ideas, but I think this is definitely, I think this is correct in that we play on what is the strength here. Because what worked in Singapore may not work here. What worked in Singapore was because we have Malay, Indian, and everything, and so that mixed up. But here is quite homogeneous Chinese. So the strength might be, I'm thinking it might be that actually you are not so mixed. So you don't have the, so for example, we have a word for, we call Basa. Basa, do you know what is Basa? Basa to us is market. Yeah, and Basa, which is 巴士的巴 and then 杀是杀人的杀 Basa. And we always say, oh, I want to go to Basa. 我要去巴萨买菜这样子. And when I came here and I said Basa, nobody knows what it is. I thought 就是去买菜的地方. And then they say 菜市场. And 对，菜市场啊，就是巴萨啊，就说. So that's when we realized it's not a Chinese word, but I thought it's a Chinese word. Actually, Basa is Basat from Malay. And for us, we grew up that way, you see. So it kind of makes us confused and has that interference. But here you won't have that, I think. So maybe because of that, you can have it more programmatically where you can have people kind of, I think you have talk shows. Then they start to use the lingo, you know. They start to introduce cool English words. Because I think Taiwan now has a lot of, enough of these 出外国又回来的人. And then they speak in different ways, I realize. If you listen to the radio and all that, their lingo is different. And give them more attention. And then slowly, you know, more people will pick up all this lingo. And then they won't know that it's English. Just like we don't know that this is not Chinese, you know, it's Malay. So I think part of the trick would be if people can, you do have a base of some of these very popular figures, you know, very fashionable figures, and maybe you can play on that. I don't know, that's not something we can control in Taida at least. That's something more of a cultural thing. Maybe you can force students to pass their English. Yeah.
Just as you mentioned, you force students to speak English in your lab. But it seems that it's not so easy. So I try to establish a kind of English-speaking atmosphere in my lab, especially for lab meeting. But it's still not easy. What's your strategy?
Actually, I find myself switching most back to Chinese more often than they switch to English. So, in terms of number, they win, right? But it helped for me if I have a foreigner in my lab. Then the rest of them feel like, oh, 不好意思, you know, 我不能一直讲中文 because the other person won't understand. So maybe that's another thing is if you have, the strength here is if you have people coming in and then they are from overseas and they are here to learn Chinese, but that their presence make the other Chinese speaker want to use English. So that's one thing. If you don't have foreigners, I think you have to put in all effort. It's very difficult. So like for me, it's easy for me to speak English, but I still switch to Chinese. Because I feel it's a very social thing. Like when I speak English, but you speak Chinese to me, I feel I need to switch to Chinese, right? It's very uncomfortable for me to keep speaking English, but the other person is speaking Chinese. So I don't know. Actually, this is more a linguistic issue, right? It's not really it's not a policy problem. It's a how humans use language problem. I think a more general problem. So one thing I think made a big difference in Singapore was Lee Kuan Yew. He really was. I mean, you know, he was a very strict person, but he did. No one can deny that he made a lot of difference because of his strictness. And now people feel like, no, we have enough of that. We want more flexibility, right? But they might forget that they got to this point today because of the strictness. So that's why I was thinking maybe some level of strictness is necessary, at least for a Taita situation, to actually force, you know. And then if you don't pass, you don't pass, right? You have to pass. If you want to do this, if you want to get this qualification, you have to pass. And if you fail, you fail, right? I don't know. I know it sounds really, I'm not Lee Kuan Yew. I'm far from that. But I see that benefit coming, that I'm grateful that he did that. Let's put it that way. Yeah, so maybe there's something that needs that level of intensity. Yeah, and actually a lot of the foreigners later they come and tell me that I wish everyone would just speak Chinese to me. Yeah, because they want to learn Chinese, so that doesn't help, right? So I don't know. I feel part of it is so I don't know, maybe you can ask my lab people, they kind of got used to me speaking Singlish. Because 我就会这样子说 OK 啦，这样子 you know. Then they feel like 很亲切啊 you know. So then sometimes I pick up that they also start to speak Singlish. So at least my lab is very like confused. But I feel maybe one thing we have done is that help people to speak English is I do some, as I said, some level of enforcement. So the classes I teach, they will ask me, can I submit in Chinese? And I'll say no. and I'll say, what I encourage them is, I won't penalize, I want you to write in English and submit, but I won't penalize you for language problems per se, because I can see that you try. And then at least for that class, because the purpose is not language, the purpose is the content, like I teach about the brain, right? So if they answer or do the correct answer for the brain facts, the expression part I don't penalize, right? But that's very hard, obviously. It's very hard to tease apart what is a language problem from what is a knowledge problem. But at least from that, I force them to, they have to submit in English. And then they feel very bad about it. But I feel it's kind of necessary.
Could you force them to stick to you in English?
No, that I don't. That sometimes it's very painful for me to hear, because I be like, 我没有时间，我们就讲中文好了，就这样子。That kind of problem. Yeah, I don't feel good about it, but I feel, yeah, you have to balance. Sometimes you demand, sometimes you don't. But I do see that because I switch so much that they also kind of slowly, it's a soft step towards becoming fully English. Yeah, so at least in my lab, that's the situation. Yeah. So, yeah. Thank you.
那我可以很快回应一下刚刚老师的问题啊，因为刚刚讲学他的人也到我这边来了，你有发现我又换回中文吗？是这样啊，就是说 EMI 这件事情啊，就是我们过去这几个月，我其实自己还在学习，但是在 EMI 课堂上面，就是说我们上面想要传达的，不是说老师一定就是说100%英文，我们也不是要追求完美无瑕的英文这件事情。那The way 我在看这件事情的时候，比较像是 EMI 它的组成 ，EMI 教室的组成，当然语言是一个媒介本体没有错，可是有其他的课堂活动，或是有时候是课堂的氛围，我要跟你博感情的时候，我就必须要有一些交换。那这些东西未必是要完美无瑕，或者是某一个口音的英文才可以达到的，所以有时候我自己在操作上也会这样，就是说我要跟学生比较亲近的时候， 就会用不一样的一个表达方式。那如果我们也给学生这样的一个 mindset 的话，我们在课堂上面彼此都有的比较对等的期待，才不会他们觉得说这个老师讲英文我听不懂，我就干脆不要听，或者是我就是关掉耳朵，等到我要出现的时候我再来出现这样。那可能就是它整个的课堂是有很多的组成分子结合在一起的。那如果我们朝这个方向去想的话，对我们也好，对学生也好，大家的期待就不会是有落差的。那我们当然就是希望中心这边也可以提供老师所需要的资源，要来工商服务一下，老师就来跟我们说，我们就是可以尽可能的提供给老师，好，尽可能提供给老师。
我补充一下，对你讲的很好，我其实发觉到大概是这样子，就是说，一方面在 policy level，right， 我们有很硬的一个要求，就是你要 pass 这个，你才可以有这个。可是 so that 那学生就会努力，可是就是当然他们也会觉得说我达不到，然后就放弃或这个问题。So 另外一个的，新加坡也是这样啊。我们就是为什么可以，是因为有 Singlish 帮忙做这个结合啊。就是even if I can't speak proper English, I can speak Singlish. I know some of the words, you know, and I know how to use some of the syntax. And so then when I jump to English, 就没有跳太远啊，就 OK 啊，所以 maybe and so that my lab we have some soft way of reaching that as well, right? So we have, I don't speak fully English, we switch back and forth, people are comfortable, they are more willing to engage. Or in the class, like I said, when I use more jokes, you know, they feel more acceptable of it. So you get these two things, you got the very hard way, but you also have the soft way. So I don't know, it first occurred to me, maybe you guys should make Tanglish. Taiwanglish, or I don't know how you want to say it. If you have that, it's also a cultural phenomenon. I think it's really cool, right? People can feel like identity kind of thing. Yeah, so, yeah.
好，那我们今天的活动就带到这边。我们再一次谢谢吴老师，谢谢。